Imagine you are sitting in a parked car.
Okay.
And outside, there are thousands of people just screaming for blood.
Wow. Okay. Setting the scene.
Yeah. And they're waiting for you, like specifically you, to step out, give the signal, and start what is basically guaranteed to be the most devastating, brutal war in human history.
That is intensely stressful.
Right. The noise is deafening. Your heart is just hammering against your ribs. But the absolute worst part.
The worst part.
Oh, yeah. The people you are about to step out and kill the generals leading the opposing army, they're your own uncles.
Oh, man.
They are your grandfathers, your cousins, literally the teachers who taught you how to read.
That's unimaginable.
Exactly. So the question is, do you turn the key, put the car in reverse, and just drive away from your duty to save your own soul? Or do you step out and fight?
Well, it is the ultimate nightmare scenario of moral paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
You are trapped between two completely intolerable choices, and the clock has effectively run out.
Exactly. And welcome to this deep dive, because today we have an incredibly ambitious mission for you. We are taking you on an exploration of one of the most profoundly influential, just mind-bending texts in all of human history.
The Bhagavad Gita.
The Bhagavad Gita, yes. And to keep us absolutely grounded today, we are using a very specific historic source.
Right, Sir Edwin Arnold's classic English translation.
Yeah, which is just a beautifully poetic rendering. It's been introducing these colossal concepts to the Western world for well over a century now.
It really has. And, to truly grasp the weight of what we're looking at here, we have to look at the context that's provided right in the introductory notes of our source material.
Right.
Because the Bhagavad Gita, it's not a standalone book you just casually pick up at the store.
Yeah.
It is a pivotal, hyper-condensed episode nestled right into the heart of a massive ancient Indian epic.
The Mahabharata.
Exactly, the Mahabharata.
Which, just for scale, is unimaginably huge. It's a foundational epic of human literature.
Oh, immense. It's this composite production compiled over centuries, and it's filled with legend and myth and ancient history and stirring adventure.
Yeah.
But the Gita itself, it was forged during a very specific, vital cultural transition in ancient India.
Right, the shift from Brahmanism.
Yes. It was a time when the older, highly rigid, ritualistic practices of Brahmanism were evolving into the deeply philosophical, more expansive landscape of modern Hinduism. So the text represents a masterclass in synthesis, really.
Like bringing everything together.
Exactly. Bringing together incredibly diverse strata of religious and philosophical thought into one cohesive, piercing dialogue.
And here's our mission for you today. Listening to this, we're not going to get bogged down in the dense, ancient, historical minutiae.
No, definitely.
We're not doing the sprawling family trees of the epic. We are here to distill this ancient dialogue into actionable, profound insights.
About duty, action, anxiety.
Yes, and the very mechanics of the universe. We want to unpack exactly why this specific conversation has captivated the greatest minds for millennia.
And bypassing the theology to find that core operating system, right? The stuff that applies directly to your life right now.
Exactly. Because the framing of this text is what I can only really describe as the ultimate pause button moment.
Well, it's a narrative device of absolute genius.
Yeah.
You have the Pandavas and the Kauravas, these two massive, terrifying armies gathered on the sacred plain of Kurukshetra.
And they are literally seconds away from a total bloodbath.
Right.
The conch shells these massive ancient horns of war. They've been blown by the commanders, the trumpets, the drums, the cymbals. They have all burst into this sudden chaotic clamor.
I think our source translation vividly describes it as the blast of loosened tempests.
The blast of loosened tempests, yes. It is kinetic, it's deafening, pure adrenaline. And right then, in a stalled war chariot stationed perfectly in the no man's land between these two roaring armies,
time essentially freezes.
It freezes. The universe hits pause for an 18-chapter, deeply dense philosophical conversation.
It's incredible. It's like freezing a movie 1 millisecond before a bomb detonates to ask, hey, what is the metaphysical nature of the explosive?
Yes, exactly.
And by placing the ultimate discussion of inner peace and cosmic reality in the absolute center of outer kinetic chaos, the text is immediately telegraphing something vital to you.
What's that?
It's saying that the philosophy we're about to discuss is not meant for a quiet, idyllic cave in the woods.
Right. It's not just for monks.
Exactly. It's not for monks who have retreated from society. This wisdom is designed to be applied in the messy, high-stakes, terrifying, chaotic reality of everyday life.
So let's step right into that chaos. Chapter 1 is titled The Book of the Distress of Arjuna.
Right.
And it sets up the core tension of the entire work. So our protagonist is Prince Arjuna, who is this peerless, legendary warrior, and driving his chariot is Krishna.
And here is a crucial detail we have to hold on to.
Right.
Krishna is actually the supreme divine being, the ultimate cosmic reality in the physical disguise of a human charioteer.
Right. But Arjuna doesn't fully grasp the infinite scale of who is driving his car yet.
Not at all.
So Arjuna, acting as the military commander, turns to his driver and says, basically, drive me to the open ground betwixt the armies. I want to see who I'm fighting today.
Yeah. And it's a request born of tactical necessity, sure, but it triggers a psychological earthquake.
Yeah, it really does.
Krishna drives these magnificent milk-white steeds forward and pulls the chariot perfectly into the center of the battlefield. And Krishna doesn't give a grand speech. He simply points and says, "See where they stand, thy kindred."
See where they stand, thy kindred. And that is the exact moment the reality of the situation absolutely crushes Arjuna.
Completely.
He looks across the ranks, and he doesn't see a faceless, monolithic enemy horde. He sees faces he has known his entire life.
The source is agonizingly specific about this.
It is. It says he sees grandsires and sires, uncles and brothers and sons, cousins and sons-in-law, and nephews mixed with friends and honored elders.
I mean, this is a civil war of the most intimate kind.
Yeah. He is staring down the barrel at the very people who raised him, all for the sake of winning back a kingdom. And his reaction is entirely visceral.
It's not just a polite hesitation.
No. It is a full-blown, catastrophic physical and emotional collapse.
Right. And if you read the physiological symptoms Arjuna describes, the text is detailing what any modern psychologist would instantly diagnose as a severe, debilitating panic attack.
Oh, 100%.
And it's inextricably linked with a profound moral crisis.
I want to read the exact words from Arnold's translation because they are just so incredibly striking. Arjuna says, "My members fail, my tongue dries in my mouth, a shudder thrills my body, and my hair bristles with horror."
It's intense.
He describes his skin burning up with a fever, his mind is whirling, and then comes the most potent symbolic moment in the chapter, really.
Dropping the bow.
Yes. His legendary, practically magical weapon, the Gandiva bow, physically slips from his trembling hand.
Oh.
He sinks down onto the floor of his chariot seat and essentially says, "I am out, I can't do this." He tells Krishna that a kingdom won with the blood of his own family is worse than living the rest of his life eating baker's bread as a penniless beggar.
And what is so vital to understand here is the profound empathy and the crushing moral weight of Arjuna's paralysis.
Right.
You have to realize he is not afraid of dying.
No, he's a warrior.
Exactly. He's a Kishorya, a warrior class. He has faced death 100 times without blinking.
So what's breaking him?
What is actively destroying his nervous system is the terror of the moral consequences of living with this guilt. He recognizes that winning this war means actively destroying the social fabric of his world. You know, the household piety, the very foundations of his community.
Right, because he's killing his elders.
Exactly. He is looking at his worldly duty to be a warrior and reclaim his rightful throne, and realizing that fulfilling it requires him to commit an unspeakable sin.
Yeah.
He asks the ultimate utilitarian question, really. What good is triumph? What good is absolute power and wealth if the very people you would want to share it with are lying dead in the mud by your own hand?
Exactly. And I think this is where we have to connect this ancient chariot to your life today, listening to this.
Definitely.
Because if you're listening right now, you are probably not standing on a literal battlefield facing down your beloved uncles with a drawn bow.
I would hope not.
Right. But we all inevitably face moments of absolute deep ethical paralysis.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about that deep career burnout where you look at the path you're on, the corporate ladder you've been brutally climbing, the relationships you've sacrificed to get there.
Yeah, and suddenly every choice feels morally hollow.
Or just overwhelmingly physically exhausting. It's that imposter syndrome where your metaphorical bow just slips out of your hand and you want to walk away from everything you've built.
Exactly.
And honestly, looking at Arjuna's argument, I find myself deeply on his side.
Really?
Yeah. I want to push back on the premise of the epic right here. Isn't Arjuna entirely 100% right? Isn't dropping his weapons and refusing to murder his grandfathers the absolute only sane moral response to this situation?
Well, it is a completely logical, deeply humane, and entirely rational response if you're operating strictly from a conventional worldly perspective.
Okay, what do you mean by worldly perspective?
Well, Arjuna is utilizing standard human morality. Killing family is the ultimate sin. Therefore, I must not fight, even if it means sacrificing my rightful kingdom and letting tyrants rule.
Right, that makes sense.
He is prioritizing the physical reality of the situation and the immediate emotional fallout. And that right there is exactly why his paralysis requires a massive, paradigm-shifting metaphysical shock to overcome.
Because his current logic is a trap.
Yes, conventional morality has led him to an absolute dead end. He is trapped in a paradox where whatever he does, he commits a sin.
If he fights, he's a murderer of his family. If he flees, he's a coward who abandons his divine duty and lets evil prevail.
Precisely. And so, to untie this impossible psychological knot, Krishna cannot just offer him a mild pep talk.
Right.
He has to completely dismantle Arjuna's understanding of reality itself.
Which forces us right into Krishna's opening argument in Chapter 2. And if you are expecting Krishna to act like, a modern empathetic therapist validating Arjuna's feelings...
Oh, you're going to be shocked.
Yeah, because his response is aggressive.
It is surprisingly harsh. It is a direct, calculated rebuke.
Arjuna is literally weeping. The text says his eyes are tear-dimmed. He has just poured his absolute soul out about the horror of murdering his family. And Krishna looks at this broken man and demands, "How hath this weakness taken thee?"
It's brutal.
He calls Arjuna's grief unmanly and shameful to the brave. He tells them to cast off this coward fit and stand up.
Right.
It feels incredibly abrasive to modern ears. I mean, if you're listening to this after losing a loved one or going through a crisis, hearing the divine being tell a weeping man to basically man up sounds almost incredibly callous.
It does.
How do we reconcile that?
Well, it sounds callous because we are deeply attached to our grief.
Yeah.
But Krishna is not trying to shame him into fighting out of mere pride. Krishna is employing a shock tactic to snap Arjuna out of his incredibly limited physical world perspective.
A shock tactic.
Yes. Krishna's immediate goal here is to introduce the first great philosophical pillar of the text, Jnana Yoga, the path of transcendent knowledge and wisdom.
Okay, so how does that solve the dilemma?
To solve a moral dilemma where physical death is the ultimate horrible outcome, Krishna has to completely radically redefine what life and death actually are.
Right. He attacks the very premise of Arjuna's sorrow. And this is where we get the core metaphysical truth of the entire text regarding the immortal soul.
Yes.
Krishna essentially tells Arjuna that his entire catastrophic breakdown is based on a hallucination. He says, "Thou grievest where no grief should be."
That's a huge claim.
It is. He tells him that wise men do not mourn for the living and they do not mourn for the dead. And then he drops this massive universe-altering concept.
The spirit is never born and it never ever dies. This is the critical distinction the text makes between the eternal essence, the true self, and the temporary accident or shadow of the physical body.
The shadow.
Right. Krishna is arguing that what fundamentally makes a person who they are, their ultimate consciousness, is entirely indestructible. The source text puts it beautifully. Never, the spirit was born. The spirit shall cease to be never.
Arnold's translation of this specific passage is so incredibly vivid, and it really drives home the mechanics of what Krishna is claiming.
Oh, the imagery is amazing.
He says that weapons cannot pierce the soul, flame cannot burn it, waters cannot overwhelm it, and dry winds cannot wither it.
It's immune.
It is entirely immune to the physics of the battlefield. And then he uses this analogy that just perfectly brings this massive cosmic abstraction down to earth.
The clothes analogy.
Yes. He compares physical death to something as mundane as changing your clothes.
Right.
The text says, "As when one layeth his worn-out robes away, and taking new ones saith, These will I wear today. So putteth by the Spirit lightly its garb of flesh."
I love that phrase, garb of flesh.
Yeah, it's just clothing, our physical bodies, our identities, our titles. They are just temporary garments that the eternal soul wears for a little while before putting on a new outfit.
And if you take that analogy and apply the mechanics of it to Arjuna's paralyzing guilt, you see exactly how it acts as an antidote.
Because he's not actually killing them.
Exactly. Arjuna is terrified of being a murderer. He is terrified of ending the existence of his uncles, but Krishna is saying, "He who shall say, 'Lo, I have slain a man,' knows not."
Wow.
He is saying life cannot slay. Life is not slain. If the soul fundamentally cannot be killed, then the ultimate horror of the physical act of war, the perceived finality of death, is an illusion.
That's wild.
Krishna is fundamentally shrinking the stakes of the physical world to absolute zero in order to free Arjuna from his paralysis.
It is a breathtakingly radical perspective shift. I mean, it's essentially telling someone who is having a nervous breakdown over a video game that they need to calm down because their avatar isn't real and they can't actually die in the living room if they take a hit on screen.
That is a very apt way to think about it.
But applying that logic to actual breathing human life.
Right. Krishna is telling Arjuna that he is squandering his emotional energy, mourning for what is biologically inevitable, the decay and death of the physical body, while remaining completely blind to what is actually eternal, the soul.
And he gives Arjuna a direct command, right? Scorn thou to suffer then for that which cannot suffer.
Yes.
But if I accept that, and this brings up a massive, glaring logical problem for me, if I accept that the physical world is just a shadow play,
Right.
if our bodies are literally just clothes we change out of, and death is just a harmless illusion, then why participate in the world at all? Right? And if nothing here ultimately matters, why shouldn't Arjuna just say, okay, Krishna, you've convinced me. The soul is eternal, so I'm not going to murder my family in their temporary meat suits.
Right.
I'm going to drop this bow, go sit quietly in a forest, and beg for bread, because fighting this war is a meaningless waste of time. If the physical world is not the ultimate reality, why engage with it so violently?
That is the exact trap of a superficial reading of this philosophy.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's a trap Arjuna himself falls into.
Oh, really?
Yes. He hears about the eternal soul and immediately thinks, great, then action is pointless.
Right.
And this brilliant pushback from Arjuna forces Krishna to pivot from Jnana Yoga, the theoretical knowledge of reality, to Karma Yoga, the rigorous practical yoga of action.
So from theory to practice.
Exactly. Krishna now has to define the precise mechanics of exactly how and why a human being must act in a world that is fundamentally temporary.
And that pivot in Chapter 3, the Book of Virtue and Work, is where this text stops being a lofty metaphysical poem and becomes a gritty, real-world manual for living.
It gets very practical very fast.
Yes, Krishna shuts down the running away to the forest idea instantly. He states as a law of nature that inaction is biologically and physically impossible.
Right.
He says, no man shall escape from act by shunning action.
It's a profound observation of human mechanics. I mean, even if you abandon society and walk away into a cave, you still have to breathe. Your heart has to beat. You have to seek water and food. Maintaining the physical body is itself a constant stream of action.
You can't just pause your biology.
Exactly. Furthermore, the text makes a brilliant psychological point. Thought itself is an action.
Oh, that's interesting.
Krishna argues that sitting physically still in a forest while your mind races with desires, anxieties, and memories of the world you left behind is just hypocrisy.
Because you're still acting.
You aren't inactive, you are just acting purely internally. Therefore, since action is completely unavoidable, you must perform your allotted duty.
Okay, so for Arjuna, the cosmos has placed him in the role of a kshatriya, a warrior.
Right.
His duty is to uphold justice, which in this specific moment means fighting the battle in front of him.
Yes, he has to act.
Okay, but this brings us right back to the original nightmare. How do you act? How do you draw the bow and fight a war? Or in the listener's case, how do you ruthlessly build a business or navigate a high-stakes legal case or raise a child in a dangerous world without getting tangled up in the massive anxiety, the guilt, and the fear that crippled Arjuna in the first place?
That is the big question.
And here is where we hit what I consider the absolute central thesis of the Gita, the ultimate mechanical antidote to human anxiety.
Karma Yoga.
Yes. The goal, Krishna says, is to act, to do your duty fiercely, but to completely, utterly, and ruthlessly renounce the fruit or the reward of that action.
This is the core engine of Karma Yoga. The text says, find full reward of doing right and right. Let right deeds be thy motive, not the fruit which comes from them.
Wow.
This is the strict definition of yoga in this specific context, equanimity.
Equanimity, the idea that you have to somehow train your nervous system to have the exact same internal reaction to pleasure and pain, to victory and defeat, to public praise and public
It
humiliation.
was radical detachment.
You have to sever your attachment to the outcome. There's this incredibly beautiful imagery used in the text to describe this state, the enameled lotus leaf.
Ah, yes.
The idea is that an enlightened person can live right in the middle of the chaotic world of sense and action, doing incredibly difficult things, yet remain completely unstained by the anxiety of it. Just as drops of water roll completely off the waxy enameled surface of a lotus leaf without making it wet.
It's describing a state of being intensely engaged in the physical action, yet entirely mentally insulated from the emotional fallout.
So you're involved, but protected.
Right. You do the work simply because it is the necessary work that the universe has placed in front of you, not because you are hungering for the wealth, the success, or the validation that might follow.
I am sorry, but I have to push back incredibly hard here on behalf of anyone living in the modern world.
Okay, let's hear it.
How is that functionally possible? If I don't care about the outcome, why would I try hard?
That's a common objection.
Let's take a surgeon, for example. We want the surgeon to be deeply attached to the outcome of saving the patient's life, don't we?
Sure.
If a CEO doesn't care if their business succeeds and can feed their employees, why would they put in the 80-hour weeks? Isn't the desperate desire for the result exactly what motivates human beings to do a good job?
And this is the most common and most important misunderstanding of karma yoga. We equate detachment with apathy.
Right.
But the text provides a deeply nuanced mechanical answer to your pushback. Karma yoga is absolutely not about doing a bad job, being sloppy, or not caring.
It's not.
No, in fact, Krishna explicitly states, with perfect meditation comes perfect act. It's about doing the action flawlessly, as an offering or a sacrifice, precisely because you are no longer crippled by the anxiety of the result.
So you're saying the anxiety over the future outcome actually degrades the quality of the present action?
Exactly. Think about the mechanics of an athlete choking in a championship game.
Oh, that's a great example.
Why do they suddenly forget how to throw a ball, something they've done 10,000 times? Because in that moment of choking, their mind is no longer on the physical, present tense action of the throw.
Right, they're in their own head.
Their mind has fast-forwarded to the fruit of the action they're thinking about, holding the trophy, or they are terrified of the media criticizing them if they miss, or they are worried about their contract.
Oh, wow.
The attachment to the future creates a cognitive load that destroys their present performance.
That makes total sense.
Karma yoga argues that if you can sever that psychological attachment to the future reward, you free up 100% of your cognitive bandwidth and focus to execute the present action perfectly. You perform your duty as a selfless sacrifice to the highest good.
So you still do the work?
Work is more excellent than idleness, Krishna says, but it must be work free from desire.
That reframing is incredible. It's not about not caring at all. It's about hyper-focused caring, but redirecting what you care about.
Yes, exactly.
You care entirely about drawing the bow with absolute masterful perfection. But you accept that once the arrow leaves the string, the wind might take it, the target might move, and that part is none of your business.
Beautifully put.
But here's the reality check. Knowing logically that I should act without attachment is easy. Reading it in a book makes sense.
Of course.
But actually commanding my brain to do it when my livelihood or my family or my reputation is on the line, that feels utterly impossible.
It's the hardest thing in the world.
And what I love about Arjuna is that he calls Krishna out on this almost immediately. He doesn't just nod and pretend to get it.
Arjuna is the perfect proxy for the skeptical listener here.
He really is.
He hears all this soaring, brilliant philosophy about perfect equanimity and detached action. And in chapter 6, he basically interrupts and says, "That sounds beautiful in theory, Krishna, but my biological brain does not work that way."
He complains that the mind is tumultuous, willful, and strong. He tells Krishna that trying to tame his own mind to achieve this equanimity is like trying to hold the wayward wind.
The wayward wind.
And is there a more perfect description of trying to meditate or trying to focus on a single task when you have a million anxious tabs open in your brain?
There really isn't.
You try to focus on your breath, and 3 seconds later, you are stressing about an email you sent 3 years ago. You are trying to catch the wind.
It is the defining struggle of the human condition. And what's fascinating is that Krishna does not disagree with him. He doesn't. No, he doesn't say, "Oh, it's easy, just try harder." He validates the difficulty. He acknowledges that the mind is incredibly hard to restrain. But, he says, it can be captured through relentless practice and discipline.
Okay, so there's a method.
He outlines strict mechanical practices to achieve this mastery, which we would recognize today as a deeply structured meditation practice.
Yeah, the source text gives very specific architectural instructions for this. Finding a quiet place, a fair, still spot, sitting firmly, holding the body and head erect, controlling the rhythm of the breath.
Very physical.
Extremely. And there's this fantastic, highly visual analogy of the tortoise. Krishna says a wise person achieves focus by drawing their senses back inward, away from the chaotic stimuli of the external world, exactly as the wise tortoise draws its 4 feet safe under its shield.
It is not a passive relaxation. It is the active, muscular withdrawal of the senses from the objects of desire.
Like pulling back.
Right. It's not just sitting quietly and letting your mind wander. It's a rigorous, disciplined pulling back of your attention so the mind can center entirely on the soul. It requires tremendous internal force.
But this brings us to a question from Arjuna that I think is the most relatable moment in the entire epic.
Oh, the failed learner.
Yes. It is the question every single person who has ever tried to improve themselves, start a new habit, or change their life has desperately wanted to ask. He asks Krishna about the failed learner.
It's such a modern anxiety.
It is. He essentially says, look, what happens to the guy who has faith, who genuinely tries to meditate, who tries to practice karma yoga, but his mind wanders and he ultimately fails?
Right, he slips up.
He falls back into his old, anxious, attached habits. Arjuna is terrified that this person is just completely lost. He asks if this failed striver is destroyed, straying from Brahma's light like the vain cloud which floats twixt earth and heaven when lightning splits it.
A split cloud. It's a profound fear. It's the fear that if you try to walk the spiritual path and fail, you end up with nothing in either world.
You're just stuck in the middle.
Right. You've given up your purely hedonistic, worldly pleasures, but you didn't manage to achieve spiritual enlightenment or peace, so you were just torn apart in the middle. A split cloud dissipating into nothingness.
It's the modern equivalent of starting a strict diet or a daily meditation habit or pivoting to a totally new purpose-driven career.
We've all been there.
You do it perfectly for 2 weeks, and then the stress hits, and you completely fall off the wagon.
Yep.
You eat the cake, you skip the meditation, you scream at someone in traffic, you take the soul-crushing corporate job back. You feel like that split cloud.
Like you ruined it.
You feel like all your effort was a total waste, and you are back at absolute zero.
And Krishna's response to this deeply human fear is arguably one of the most comforting, beautiful passages in the entire text.
Oh, I agree.
He assures Arjuna that cosmic justice is not a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
He says, "No heart that holds one right desire treadeth the road of loss."
Let's just sit with that line for a second. No heart that holds one right desire treadeth the road of loss.
It's beautiful.
That completely upends the modern all-or-nothing, pass-fail hustle culture we live in.
It does. Krishna explains the mechanics of spiritual continuity, which in this text is rooted in the concept of reincarnation across lifetimes.
Okay, how does that work mechanically?
The text argues that your spiritual and psychological effort is essentially banked. It is a cosmic ledger that never zeroes out.
How?
If you strive for righteousness, if you try to master your mind and fail, or if you simply die before you achieve enlightenment, that effort is not wasted. It acts as spiritual momentum.
Spiritual momentum.
Right. You are reborn into a better, more conducive situation in your next life, perhaps into a family of wise, pure-hearted people, and you are drawn back to the path unwittingly by your past desires. You pick up the work exactly where you left off.
It's like a spiritual 401k or compound interest.
Yeah.
Even if you stop contributing for a few years or you fall off the wagon, the principle you invested when you were trying your best is still sitting there, compounding in the background.
It doesn't disappear?
The universe doesn't wipe your bank account just because you missed a deposit. Every single attempt at self-mastery compounds forever. That is a massive relief.
It's incredibly reassuring.
Now, up until this exact moment in the text, Krishna has sounded like the ultimate brilliant philosopher, psychologist, and life coach.
Very grounded.
He has been systematically solving Arjuna's internal crisis using flawless logic, vivid analogies, and practical meditative mechanics. But we're about to hit the absolute climax of the Gita.
Things are about to get wild.
Yes. Arjuna has heard the theory, but hearing isn't enough. He needs to see the truth behind these words. The dialogue is about to violently shift from a calm philosophical debate in a parked chariot to sheer, overwhelming cosmic horror and awe.
Yes, this brings us to the monumental chapter 11, the manifesting of the one and manifold.
The vision.
Arjuna has accepted the logic of the eternal soul and the necessity of detached action, but now he asks for empirical evidence. He says to Krishna, "I want to see your true divine form."
He wants proof.
Right. He says, "I want to see the sovereign Lord of the universe, not just this human disguise of a charioteer you are wearing."
And Krishna agrees, But he lays down a mechanical limitation first. He tells Arjuna that he cannot see the infinite universe with his normal biological human eyes.
Right.
If he tried, his mortal eyes would literally burn out from the data overload, so Krishna has to upgrade his hardware.
He grants him sense divine.
Exactly, sense divine. New, spiritual eyes capable of processing the infinite. And once those eyes open, the audio picture the text paints of the Vishvarupa, the universal form, is utterly staggering.
It really is.
It is psychedelic, chaotic, and beyond human comprehension.
It actively defies simple description, but Arnold's translation uses incredibly potent imagery to try and capture the infinite.
It describes a sunburst of 1,000 suns suddenly flooding the earth with rays. Arjuna looks at his friend, the charioteer, and suddenly he sees countless eyes, faces, and mouths stretching into infinity.
That's endless.
Endless. He sees all the ancient gods, the moon, the stars, the sages, all existing simultaneously within one colossal, shifting, infinite body. The text says there is nowhere end of thee, nowhere beginning, nowhere a center.
It is quite literally everything, everywhere, all at once.
And it's crucial to understand, and I feel like this is often sanitized in modern retellings, that this cosmic vision is not merely beautiful, peaceful, or comforting.
Oh, not at all.
It is profoundly terrifying. Arjuna is entirely overwhelmed by the sheer, unbridled, indifferent power of the universe.
The horror of it is what strikes me the most.
Yes.
It's not just a glowing light of love. Arjuna looks closely at this infinite churning being, and he sees what is actively happening to the enemy armies and even to his own commanders within this cosmic body.
Yeah, it's brutal.
He sees these proud warriors rushing headlong, helplessly, like moths drawn into a flame, plunging straight into Krishna's massive flaming teeth. The text is brutal. It says they are ground into dust and death between his colossal jaws.
If we try to ground this in a modern feeling, think about the sensation of going out on a perfectly clear, incredibly dark night, far away from any city lights, and staring up at the Milky Way.
Okay, good.
For a brief second, you might feel a sense of poetic peace. But if you truly let your mind grasp the sheer terrifying scale of what you are looking at, the billions of galaxies, the supermassive black hole swallowing light, the exploding stars, the vast freezing emptiness,
You realize how small you are.
you realize how infinitely, almost meaninglessly small you are. The universe is a miraculous, beautiful creator, but it is also a massive, violently indifferent destroyer. It creates and it crushes with equal measure.
Exactly.
That exact realization of scale is what Arjuna is experiencing, but personified right in front of him.
It's the ego-shattering realization that you are absolutely not the main character of reality.
Right.
And Arjuna is physically shaking. He is terrified. He begs this infinite, many-mouthed being, "Who are you?" And Krishna delivers what I think is the most chilling, unforgettable line in the entire epic.
What does he say?
He says, "I am time who kills. Accepting thee, of all these hosts of hostile chiefs arrayed, there shines not one shall leave alive."
I am time who kills.
Yes.
This is a devastating philosophical blow to Arjuna's ego and his entire concept of personal agency.
Completely.
Krishna is ripping back the curtain to reveal the absolute determinism of the cosmos. He is telling Arjuna, I have already slain these warriors. Their time is mathematically up. The outcome of this battle is already determined by the cosmic order.
Which fundamentally breaks my brain regarding free will.
Same.
If Krishna has already killed them in the cosmic timeline, does Arjuna actually have free will? Is the Gita arguing for absolute fatalism?
Yeah.
Where we are just meat puppets playing out a pre-written script?
Right.
If the outcome is locked, why does Arjuna's choice matter at all?
Well, the way the text handles it, it is arguing for a form of compatibilism.
Okay.
The outcome is determined by the macro forces of the universe, yes. But Arjuna's internal state, whether he acts with cowardly attachment or heroic detachment, is his domain.
Ah, I see.
Krishna tells him to stand up and fight because Arjuna isn't the actual author of their deaths. Krishna explicitly says, my instrument art thou. Arjuna is merely being invited to consciously play his part in a play that has already been written.
He's the instrument.
He is the physical instrument through which cosmic destiny is manifesting.
So it completely recontextualizes his guilt.
Yes.
How can Arjuna feel guilty for killing men who are, from a cosmic four-dimensional perspective, already dead?
Right. He is just the bow. He isn't the archer. He isn't the wind. He isn't the target. He is just the tool.
That radically reinforces the Karma Yoga teaching we discussed earlier.
It really does. Do the action with total focus, but realize you are fundamentally not the ultimate author of the results.
So after all this, Arjuna is so profoundly terrified by this ego-annihilating cosmic reality that he actually begs Krishna to stop.
He wants out.
He begs him to hide the infinite and return to his comforting four-armed human form. He basically says, I cannot handle the truth of the infinite universe for more than a few minutes.
Which is so fair.
Very fair. And after Krishna graciously obliges, transforming back into the gentle, familiar charioteer, he begins to explain the underlying source code or the physics of this physical universe.
Okay, getting back to the mechanics.
He explains the mechanical labors that dictate exactly why human beings act the way they do. This brings us to a concept that is essentially a complete psychological framework for reality, the three gunas.
Yes. Having shown Arjuna the infinite, eternal reality, Krishna now has to explain the mechanics of the temporary physical reality. He introduces the profound concept that all of nature, every physical object, every thought, every emotion, every human action is constructed out of three fundamental interwoven threads or qualities.
The gunas.
These are called the gunas.
The three qualities. It's truly like the biological and psychological operating system of reality. And these three threads are sattva, rajas, and tamas.
Sattva, rajas, tamas.
Let's deeply break these down because the way the text explains them is not just abstract theory.
Well, it's very applicable.
It provides amazing, highly specific, real-world examples that you can use to diagnose your own life today.
Okay, let's hear the mechanics.
The mechanics of the gunas are fascinating. They aren't just personality types. They are the literal gravitational forces of the physical universe that bind the eternal soul to the temporary body. First, there is sattva. This is the quality of goodness, light, purity, truth, and harmony. When sattva dominates, it binds the soul to the body through an attachment to happiness and knowledge.
Sounds like a best one.
It is the most pure. Second, there is rajas. This is the quality of passion, impulse, restless action, and intense desire.
Passion.
Rajas binds the soul through craving. It creates a literal psychological deficit in your mind that makes you believe you need a specific outcome or object to be complete.
Very relatable.
And third, there is tamas. This is the quality of ignorance, sloth, darkness, delusion, and inertia. Tamas binds the soul through heedlessness and laziness.
Got it.
Every single person, every object is a shifting mixture of these three forces, with one usually dominating your behavior at any given time.
And to bring this totally down to earth for you listening, the Gita takes these grand cosmic forces and applies them to highly specific, mundane, everyday things.
Let's look at food, for example.
Yeah, food is a great one. The text says sattvic food is cordial, comforting. It brings strength, health, and a peaceful mind. It's deeply nourishing.
Right.
Rajasic food, food driven by passionate, restless energy, is overly spicy, heavily salted, sharp, and biting. The text specifically notes that it brings aches and unrest.
Basically junk food that gives you heartburn.
Exactly. And tamasic food, the food of ignorance and sloth, is described as stale, savory, but foul, a feast of rottenness.
Wow. It applies this exact same diagnostic framework to human actions like charity or gift giving.
How does that work?
Well, a sattvic gift is given lovingly, out of a pure sense of duty, expecting absolutely nothing in return to the right person at the exactly right time. It is an act of pure, clean generosity.
Nice.
A rajasic gift, however, is given with a psychological string attached.
Ah.
The giver secretly hopes for a return favor down the line, or gives it grudgingly simply to show off their wealth and status. It is purely transactional.
And a tamasic gift is just flung ungraciously at the wrong time to the wrong person or given with open contempt. But my absolute favorite example from the text, the one that I think hits hardest for modern life, is how the gunas define our relationship to pleasure. This is so painfully relevant.
Oh, this part is brilliant.
The Gita says sattvic pleasure tastes bitter at first, almost like a poison, but it becomes sweet as nectar at the end.
Because sattvic pleasure is the pleasure of discipline and growth. It is the friction of neuroplasticity.
Working out, studying.
Exactly. Waking up at 5 a.m. to exercise or sitting down to study a difficult language for 2 hours, in the immediate moment, it feels terrible. It feels like suffering.
It tastes bitter.
But the long-term result, the strength, the health, the deep satisfaction of mastery is profound. It springs from what the text calls the spirit's deep content.
Exactly. But rajasic pleasure operates on the exact opposite timeline. It is sweet as nectar at first, but it turns bitter as poison at the end.
The dopamine spike.
That is the biological dopamine spike. That is the impulsive midnight junk food binge, the impulse purchase you can't afford, the angry, devastating text message you send because it feels incredibly vindicating in the heat of the moment.
Oh, yeah.
It is born strictly from the bond between the senses and the sense world, and it inevitably ends in a crash of regret, debt, or pain.
Always.
And tamasic pleasure is just born from sloth and foolishness, a total delusion from start to finish, numbing yourself entirely.
What's incredibly practical about this framework is that it serves as a real-time diagnostic tool for your own nervous system. You can look at any urge you have and ask, is this impulse being driven by sattva, rajas, or tamas?
Which inevitably leads to my biggest question about this whole system. This sounds almost like a biological prison.
How do you mean?
Well, are we fundamentally trapped by whatever guna we are genetically or karmically born with? If I look at my life and realize I am inherently a rajasic, highly passionate, deeply impulsive, anxious person, am I just doomed to act that way forever?
Are you stuck?
Yeah. Does the operating system control the user, or can we hack our own code?
The entire point of the Gita is that you can and absolutely must transcend the gunas. That is the ultimate goal of enlightenment.
Okay.
While we are continuously subjected to these qualities in the physical world, because our bodies and brains are made of the physical world, the enlightened person learns a very specific psychological maneuver.
What is it?
They learn to observe the gunas acting upon them without identifying as the gunas.
The translation has this perfect phrase for it. It says, the wise person sits as a sojourner and stranger in their midst.
Exactly. Let's say you feel that intense rasic impulse to act out of sudden anger because someone insulted you. A person trapped by the guna says, I am angry, I must react.
Right.
But the enlightened observer feels that exact same neurochemical spike of anger. And instead of being consumed by it, they watch it happen. They say to themselves, that is just the physical quality of rajas currently acting upon my biological mind. It is a storm passing through.
So you separate yourself from the feeling.
You don't let it touch the eternal soul, the true self. You manage the weather of the gunas. You don't let the weather dictate who you are.
That is such a spectacularly powerful mental framework. You step back and become the silent observer of your own biological operating system.
It changes everything.
And this profound realization brings us to the final grand conclusion of the entire massive dialogue. We are in chapter 18.
The end.
The armies are still waiting. The conch shell's echoes have barely faded. And Krishna is wrapping up his entire sweeping argument about how to live in the world, how to do your work, and how to ultimately be free.
And fittingly, he returns right back to the core tension we started with in chapter 1, the conflict between action and renunciation.
Right, the original problem.
Arjuna, seeking absolute clarity before he makes his final choice, asks Krishna for the definitive final word on what it means to truly renounce the world.
And Krishna answers by drawing a hard line between two distinct concepts, sannyas and tyaga.
Sannyas and tyaga.
Right. Sannyas is the physical foregoing of all acts. It's what Arjuna wanted to do initially, dropping the bow, running away to the forest, refusing to participate in the messiness of life.
Total withdrawal.
And Krishna definitively rejects this. He says, again, you cannot escape action, and trying to do so is a delusion. But tyaga, that is what is praised. Tyaga is the mental renouncing of the fruit of the acts.
That is the ultimate key distinction of the Gita. You absolutely do not give up the action. You give up your agonizing attachment to what the action produces.
You stay in the world.
You still fiercely do your duty in the world. The text explicitly says, worship, penance, alms must be performed, but you execute them selflessly, without the ego demanding a reward.
And then, after all this incredibly complex, universe-spanning philosophy, after breaking down the rigorous mechanics of karma yoga, the transcendent truths of jnana yoga, the terrifying ego-crushing cosmic visions of time, the detailed psychological analysis of the three gunas,
That's a lot.
it's a ton. Krishna distills everything into one final, shockingly simple instruction. He basically looks at Arjuna and says, let go of all the strict, complex rules. Stop agonizing over getting the rituals or the philosophy perfectly right. Fly to me alone.
This introduces the final path, bhakti yoga, the yoga of pure devotion.
Fly to me alone.
Krishna is essentially saying, make me thy single refuge. If you dedicate your heart, your mind, and your daily work entirely to the highest cosmic good represented here by the divine person of Krishna, you will be saved from all sins and all paralyzing anxieties. The crushing burden of having to be perfect is lifted.
And look at the incredible resolution of the text. Note Arjuna's final internal state at the end of chapter 18.
Right.
He doesn't say, I am perfectly happy and everything's going to be great. He says, my trouble and ignorance are gone. He says his doubt is fled, he is fixed, he is resolute,
And he's ready.
and he is finally truly ready to do his agonizing duty. He reaches down and he picks up the Gandiva bow.
It is a stunning circle. Physically, he is back exactly where he started standing, in a chariot on a terrifying battlefield, seconds away from a brutal war. Nothing external has changed.
Right.
But internally, psychologically, metaphysically, his entire universe has been dismantled and completely rebuilt.
So, bringing all of this immense philosophy back to you, the listener, the ultimate shortcut to being well-informed about the Bhagavad Gita isn't about memorizing ancient Sanskrit terms.
No.
It isn't about perfectly charting out the sprawling family tree of the Mahabharata. It is about adopting this specific, battle-tested mental armor for your own life.
It offers a radically different, profoundly empowering way of existing in the high-stress modern world.
You show up, you play your allotted role in the universe perfectly, whether the universe has cast you as a parent, a frontline worker, a student struggling through finals, or a leader facing a crisis.
You act with conviction.
You act with absolute unapologetic conviction and laser focus. But you mentally, ruthlessly surrender the outcome. You are the archer. You must draw the string back with perfect form, total dedication, and all the strength you possess.
But you don't control the wind.
Exactly. You have to accept deep in your bones that you do not control the wind. You do not control the target.
Yeah.
And you do not control where the arrow ultimately lands.
It's the ultimate psychological paradox that the Gita unlocks. By genuinely caring less about the future result, you completely free yourself to act infinitely more powerfully in the present moment.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought for you to really chew on as you go about your day.
Okay, what is it?
The Bhagavad Gita fundamentally suggests that the very things that cause us the most agonizing anxiety in life, our desperate, clawing desires for specific outcomes, our paralyzing terror of failure, our relentless, exhausting need to control what happens tomorrow.
All illusion.
These are all illusions. They are traps created by the gunas, the biological traits of nature, tricking our nervous systems into thinking the fleeting shadows on the wall are the ultimate reality.
It's just weather.
Exactly. So, what if the heavy, crushing burden you are carrying right now, the stress of that massive project at work, the agonizing anxiety over that failing relationship, the deep fear of where your career path is heading, what if that burden isn't actually yours to carry at all?
Think about that.
What if you are just the instrument, the bow in the hands of the universe? And your only real, true job today, your only actual duty, is to simply draw the string back with every ounce of skill and grace you have, completely unbothered by where the arrow finally lands. We will leave you to think about that while we leave Arjuna, standing resolute in his chariot, hitting the play button on the universe as the war horns sound.